Let's get more reaction to the Chancellor's plans. Justine Greening is the former Secretary of State for Education. She's launched the C19 Business Pledge, which is a national scheme that encourages businesses to join the coronavirus effort by pledging to help their employees, customers and communities to get through the crisis. Let's join her now. Good afternoon to you.
Afternoon.
So how does this work?
So the C19 Business Pledge was all about asking companies, once they'd worked out how they were going to get through the coronavirus crisis, to play this wider role in helping Britain rise to the challenge of getting through it. Of course, now we're asking those same businesses to put in place strategies for how they can help Britain level up in spite of this economic crisis that we saw the Chancellor take some short-term emergency measures to help tackle today.
So when you talk about levelling up, you're talking about social mobility. I'm just wondering how things like a cut in stamp duty figures in that.
Well, I think you're right to make that point, which is essentially what we had today were short-term fixes to respond to the immediate crisis that we have in our economy. But what we now need to see from the government is a longer-term plan on levelling up. In other words, when we have a budget in September, it's absolutely vital that Boris Johnson sets out this wider levelling up strategy. I think what we had today was a government trying to combat the risk that it might preside over a time in office where levelling down happens. But they are not the same thing as bringing forward a strategy for levelling up. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is a levelled up Britain with equality of opportunity would see a young person at school in Eton with the same prospects and life opportunities as a young person a quarter of a mile away from me growing up on the Alton estate. That's not just about how many opportunities there are in Britain, it's about equal access to those opportunities. That's a separate strategy the government needs to bring forward. And I think it's absolutely crucial if we're really going to give young people a sense not just of the fact that there may be some options for them in the immediate short term in the next 6 months, but for many of them looking ahead, what they want to see is what levelling up will mean, not just for a job, but in terms of them having a longer term career.
Is the middle of two crises, a health crisis and a financial crisis, is that the best time to be concentrating on that sort of issue?
Yes, absolutely. It is crucial that we look at this, because almost as the tide goes out on opportunity, it's the young people who are already the furthest away from having a level playing field and opportunity that suffer the most and suffer the first. So this is absolutely the right time to do it. And I think in terms of how we put confidence back into the economy and actually stop that recession that we seem to be facing from being an incredibly deep one, actually the government setting out a longer term economic plan on levelling up is absolutely crucial. And I think the way to do this is to look at those new sectors of growth that are coming into the UK economy on the green economy and net zero green jobs and careers, the tech revolution that's happening and all of the careers that come on the back of that. What it should be doing is looking at how it can have those sectors flourishing and thriving in those communities that are ones that have been locked out of opportunity in the past, and then working back from that to look at how the education system can change today to make sure that young people coming out of those schools in the future have the skills to take the opportunities that ought to be on their doorstep. And I think the final part of how a chancellor might look at levelling up economically is to make sure that any job in this country, whatever level of skill it has a progression and a pathway through to a higher skilled job and a better wage. And frankly, anyone starting at an entry point job should be able to go in at that entry level and get up to board level. And that's a real challenge also for British business, is to make sure that we have businesses in our country that genuinely can give all of our people, whatever age, a path through and a career through to better prospects in their future life that they can work towards.
The problem is, this is a conversation I would fully expect to have at any other time, but in the middle of a crisis that we're in, where people are terrified that if they've managed to hang on to their jobs through the furlough scheme, that they will have that job in October, when businesses are struggling just to stay open, there are other priorities, and the main priority for everybody is that they want to stay safe.
So we absolutely have to navigate through both the health crisis and the economic crisis. But I fundamentally disagree with you that this shouldn't be a priority. Britain is not going to be able to pay back the huge cost of coronavirus if all we have are young people in low skilled jobs on minimum wage, in part time jobs for the next 6 months. Levelling up so that every person in Britain has the chance to have a career that means they can fulfill their potential and make the best contribution they can to our economy and the most satisfying version of their lives. They really get to use their talents. That's how we'll be able to pay back this bill. And that's actually the only way that we're going to be able to have a successful version of Britain going ahead. It's simply untenable, in my view, to have a country continue where you can have children born just a few miles away from one another. One is privileged, one is not privileged, and they have such different life paths ahead of them for no other reason than the background and start that they get in life. I think that's fundamentally wrong. I also think it's not a recipe for a successful version of Britain. Our country has always run like this. It now has to change fundamentally. And that, for me, is what levelling up is really all about. We haven't seen that strategy from Boris Johnson's government. They now need to bring that forward rapidly, in my view, because actually every day that we don't have that strategy, that we don't have a longer term levelling up growth plan for Britain, is a day when, as you say, worries about COVID, worries about jobs grow, and getting confidence back in the economy is absolutely crucial in order to be able to protect jobs.
Justine Greening, good to talk to you. Thanks for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.